Welcome to another episode of Bourbon and Data Breaches, where we cover 5 of the most interesting data breaches from this last week and one of our favorite bourbons. I'm Steve.
Divya.
Frank.
Miguel.
Howdy, I'm Shu.
Great. Well, Divya, what happened this week?
Okay, so coming in hot from the UK, y'all. The Works, that is, I want to say it's a stationery shop, and it was forced to close some of its stores across the UK after hackers target retailers' tills and deliveries. 5 of its 526 shops were closed after the cyber attack, and they were assuring people that don't worry, like none of your information or payment systems were affected. So what do you guys have to say about this?
I gotta say, I mean, hackers leave no stone unturned. I mean, they will go after anything they can. I mean, a book, retailer store. I mean, I'm guessing that they're after the financial data the store might have from the customers. Maybe that makes sense.
Yeah, this reminds me of the Target data breach, right? So whenever a store goes offline and it includes the point of sale system, you got to be really concerned about the other 500 stores, right? If they could shut down 5 stores and their payment system, and could they put Carter software on the other 500 stores? So hopefully they do a full review and they don't have any sort of card skimming software that's been installed in the POS, but that's all obviously very, very scary.
So I want to point out that they were also saying that they insisted that no customer and payment data was accessed because as it's stored on a separate third-party system, but that doesn't really do much, right? Because if somebody breached the third-party system, you're still breached and your customers are still breached.
Yeah, it's a good question. Even if they're using something like Square, which is completely outsourced, if they can shut down 5 stores, they maybe had access to hardware or had access to changing firmware. And so you could still put a skimmer on that. So yeah, just because you're relying on a third party doesn't necessarily mean that there's not an attack vector that could steal credit cards.
Yeah, this article was interesting because they said they still haven't heard from the hackers. So either this was just for the lulls but they appeared to have gone through a lot of systems. So they either were doing just for vandalism or even worse, they have bigger fish to fry. They've got a way to read credit cards now or something.
Yeah, if I had access to 500 stores, I wouldn't necessarily shut down 5 and brag about it. I would just very quietly change the code on the back end. So allegedly.
Allegedly, of course.
Not teaching anybody how to do cards.
Right.
Okay, any other comments on this story? It's kind of.
Yeah, I would have asked the same. The assured payment data was not compromised because it's managed by third parties. So can you really tell the extent of the breach like that?
Don't they always say that?
They always do.
Like no customer's information has been compromised.
Yeah.
Look,
That's what I tell my wife. I was like, oh, no, that was managed by a third party. It's not my fault.
Don't worry. Nothing to worry about.
Yeah, it's a third party. A third party left the dishes in the sink. It wasn't me.
The question is, does it work?
No. Did it work here? I don't think so.
Look, there's several principles in securing data. Securing data, one of them is securing data at rest, and one of them is securing data in transit. If you're at a store, you're at the work store. Even if you're going to third party, it's going from the store to a third party. And if they had this extensive infiltration into the system, it's very easy to intercept things in transit.
And that's kind of what happened with the Okta thing too, isn't it? Not in the sense of payment information, but they get breached, and then a bunch of people who were relying on Okta got breached. So
Yep.
Well, that's almost, yeah, that's almost the reverse case is if you're relying on a third party and then you get breached, you're like, it's okay because you're safe because we're using a third party. But then when that third party gets breached, then everyone's unsafe. And so, yeah, it's